We acknowledge that we are recording this podcast from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their ongoing connection to land and waters throughout Australia.
Welcome to Super Simple Chats, Rest's very first podcast. I'm Ange.
And I'm Alex.
And we will be speaking to industry experts about all things super.
Wait, what the hell is contributions as well?
I didn't realise until recently that super is invested. I thought it was like a savings account.
I'm not sure it's helpful to talk about specific numbers, but it's a lot less than $1 million.
This is actually really important to talk about it because I don't want to miss out on those things.
Try to make it understandable and relatable for everyday Aussies.
After all, it's one of the biggest assets you'll ever have.
Now, this wouldn't be a financial podcast if we didn't start by mentioning that the information discussed is general only and doesn't take into account your own financial situation, needs, or objectives. This information and the relevant products are issued by retail employees Superannuation Pty Ltd. Before deciding to join or stay, consider the relevant product disclosure statement and target market determination at rest.com.au/PDS and whether it's appropriate for you. While we've endeavoured to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the information provided, there may be inadvertent errors or omissions. So before acting on any advice, we recommend you speak with a financial advisor.
So for me personally, as a finance writer, this was not something that I grew up knowing a lot about, superannuation or personal finance. And I took it upon myself to learn as much as I could. And with that, I realised how little people know, just like me, and how important it is for everyone to know this very simple information.
You know, I agree with you 100%, Alex. I mean, I've been working in super for about, I'd say, close to 4 years now. And truthfully, I had pretty much zero to no knowledge about super other than the fact that I had it until I started working at Rest. And then I realized just how important it actually is.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, doing this podcast, I'm just hoping that everyday Aussies like us can really get into the nitty-gritty of super and understand just how important it actually is for them in their future. So on that note, we're excited to kick off our very first episode, which, surprise, surprise, is Super 101. And joining us today is Matt from Rest.
G'day, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks for being
stoked
here.
to have you here, Matt. And Matt is going to be demystifying just what super is and why it actually matters. First question. As we were just saying, super feels like a really foreign concept for most people. In fact, most people just assume it's this glorified savings account for later. But we know it's actually a lot more than that. So my first question is, if you were to explain superannuation to someone who is completely new to the idea, how would you explain it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think most people, it is a foreign concept as well. You guys are not alone in not knowing too much. It's not generally a topic taught at school or university, TAFE, things like that. So I think the message from me out to every Australian is you're not alone in not knowing much about super because it's pretty common. So what is super? I think you sort of did touch on it. In short, it is savings for retirement. Saying that, it's not like a savings account where you can just dip into and sort of, you know, if you're going on a weekend away and sort of take some money out here and there. In a way, it is that those forced savings for your retirement. And it is important because it's going to be your nest egg come retirement, right? You know, you've worked hard for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You want to have that little nest egg tucked away for when you do retire. I think for me as well, a lot of people sort of, in a way, assume it's not real. It's not their money, which, you know, is interesting because, you know, you've been working so hard for this and it is your money. You know, I think people think it's not real is because you can't touch it, you can't smell it, you can't feel it. And that probably just comes down to the lack of engagement with super. And it's pretty common across most Australians that they're pretty disengaged with their super, which is a shame, but pretty consistent with most Australians. So in short, that's a really long-winded answer. Sorry, you've got me on today. I do talk a lot. Some of it's nonsense, some of it's true. That's
exactly why we have you here.
But look, savings for retirement, that's it in short. The way you're going to achieve this retirement balance is through employer contributions. Your employer will make contributions through the lifetime of your career. Obviously, there's certain criteria you need to meet as well. But I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that today in terms of employer contributions and the power of those too.
Yeah, awesome.
I think disengagement is a really, like, the perfect word to describe how a lot of people feel about super, especially young people. Like, it's very much seen as a set and forget, one day in the future, I'll think about this concept. So with that in mind, why should young people actually even care about their super?
Yeah, look, I mean, the amount of times I've gone into a workplace, I do a lot of sort of super education in the workplace. The amount of times I sort of go in there and talk about exactly what we're talking about today, sort of super 101. Whenever I have these conversations with people, you sort of have those light bulb moments and go, oh, okay, that's why I should do it. And I think, in short, the earlier you can look at it, there's this thing called compound interest. And what a compound interest is basically interest upon interest. So, as contributions go in, they're earning interest, and over the lifetime of your work life, that's just going to compound to hopefully a nice juicier balance. So there's some small things you can do earlier, which we'll touch on in a bit more detail, like, potentially adding additional contributions to your super and watching that compound over the lifetime of your work career, looking at different investment options, having a look at your insurances and whether you need them, whether you want to dial them up or increase them or what have you. There's plenty of things you can do at an earlier stage in your career, which will be so much more beneficial, by the time you retire. The amount of times as well I've been into a workplace and I'll be chatting to somebody in their 40s, 50s or 60s, and they will often say, oh, I wish I'd done this earlier. And, ideally you've got somebody a little bit younger hearing that as well.
It's super FOMO, right?
Totally, totally.
Realizing it too late.
What I will say, if you are in your 40s or 50s, it's never too late.
Yeah,
so,
that's good. Yeah.
It's never too late. There's always something you can do to help you balance. But obviously, I work at Rest and a lot of our members are actually sort of 18, 19, 20. So I got that really fantastic opportunity to sort of chat with them and help them out. Some really, really basic things that you can do, just to sort of help yourself out for, to get engaged with your super, which I can't stress enough is really important.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from that is it's never too late.
Correct.
But the earlier you start, the better it could be
totally.
for your outcome.
Yeah, 100%.
I like the way that you described it as a light bulb moment. So this idea that something like compound interest, someone had that, oh yes, now I should.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. Are there any other light bulb moments that you've seen register with people?
Oh, there's plenty. I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest things is how do people, engage with their super? And, most funds, I will say, have an app.
Is that a shameless plug there, Matt? I think it is.
A little bit. Look, I'm obviously slightly biased working at Rest, but, we have an app, and I've worked with other funds in the past and they all have apps as well. But I didn't know there was an app. I didn't know I could see my balance. I didn't know I can see my contributions. There's so many things. It's like one thing will just lead to another because, once you get in a bit of a role and these words start making sense, things you might have heard on TV or, your parents or a mate at a barbecue that knows everything, it starts to resonate a bit more and then naturally you're more engaged. So I think for me, those light bulb moments are very rewarding for me. And I know most of, my team that works in the same space as well. So
that was really great to know. So we've actually gone and spoken to everyday Aussies about this topic.
What do you know about super?
I don't know anything at all. A 401k for Australians.
It's for the retirement.
They told me that I will get super.
It's something that you contribute to so that you have something to retire on.
It's mandatory in Australia.
I believe it is a very good thing for everybody in Australia.
Investments are made on my behalf.
And it's for later, you can't have it now.
Do you check it often?
I tried looking at it once.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, every now and then.
Not often as I should.
I do keep a tab on how much I've got.
Probably not as often as I should.
Sometimes I do, and I get really excited because I'm like, I can't wait to grow old and to get this.
Back to you, Ange.
So, Matt, you did mention employer contributions.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard this used interchangeably with the term super guarantee.
yes.
For those of us at home who are listening and have no idea what super guarantee is, and they might have seen it on a pay slip or something and gone, what is this 11.5% thing that they're taking out every week? Can you explain to us what super guarantee is?
Yeah, it's basically just the contributions that your employer has to make on your behalf. So this is the money you've earned and it goes into your designated super fund. Now, at the moment, you're right, it's 11.5%. When I first started working in super, it was around about 9%.
Is that telling us about how long you've been working in super?
It's been a little while now. It was even less, a lot, before I started working in super. But yeah, at the moment, 24-25 financial year, it's 11.5%. It's actually increasing to 12% next financial year. So,
great.
Which is great. Obviously, that's more money going into your little nest egg. That savings for retirement we talked about.
So I'm going to take us back a little bit, back to when I was 16 years old. So a bit of a reminiscent thinking about my very first job.
Yep.
I was actually younger. I was like almost 15. I think it was 14 and 9 months. Like my parents just pushed me straight in. Like, get a job.
Love that.
So I worked in retail. That was my first job. And when I first started, they handed me a bunch of paperwork, filled it out, handed it back. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail, and it was from a company called Rest. Never heard of them. No one told me what it was going to be.
Great fund.
There was a number on it, and they said I was a member. So I was like, oh, well, this is probably important. And I was one of those teenagers that was really organized. So I had a life admin folder. I don't know how many,
so weird.
how many 15-year-olds have a life admin folder. And I put it in there. And then just by some magic, okay, it was a huge fluke, but I just somehow knew that I had to take it with me every time I started a new job and just fill it in.
You are a miracle.
Yeah, miracle, right? And it's really lucky because to this day I'm still with Rest for that exact reason. But my understanding is most people don't do this.
Absolutely not.
So, which I think we'll probably touch on that. But we'll touch on that next, Alex. But can you tell our listeners what is it that they need to know about super when they do start their first job and then when they start moving from job to job?
So you're definitely a freak of nature there, keeping that admin
stoked
file.
About that.
That's unbelievable. Fair play to you. For me, I think back to my first job was working at Hungry Jack's, and I would have been probably around sort of 16, maybe a bit older, I think as well. And yeah, same thing. I onboarded with them and got a piece of paper that said super, and I had no idea what that meant, and I certainly didn't keep that in my admin folder. That's for sure. But what that bit of paper was something that's referred to as standard choice forms. So when you start with any workplace, you have the option of, say it is your first job, you have the option of either joining the employer's default fund. So default funds is the fund that they've selected to give to new employees.
So that's how I ended up in Rest.
Totally, okay. Yeah. So that's how you would have came to Rest initially. But in this day and age, employees have choice. So if if you're somebody that, has done your research and you wanted to come to this workplace with your own super fund, there's a lot of comparison tools out there available these days, some via the ATO, in fact. You can actually bring your own fund to that workplace and say, hey, I want you to pay contributions to this. But if you don't, a lot of people don't. A lot of people will just go, yep, I'm just going to tick this box because it's easy. I don't want to upset my employer, which is weird. You won't be upsetting your employer by, selecting your own super fund. It's your choice. But
do you reckon that's because they think that they're going to be like the odd one out? Like everyone's 100%, with this default fund, and so I'm going to be the weird one out.
Think about any job that you've ever started your first day. It's chaotic. It's mayhem in terms of your mind just rattling around and all these, forms you got to fill out, the 1,000 OH&S forms that you got to fill out in this day and age as well. And then you got something that says super as well. So yeah, I think most people would probably just tick that default box, which is fine. So yeah, they're your sort of options in terms of when you start and the form. But I think it is really, really important when you do move from job to job to keep track of your super details. Technology is our best friend now. It's so much easier now to keep track of your super funds. I mentioned before about apps, probably the easiest way.
So you don't need a life admin folder where you carry the piece of paper with you for 20 years? Because I only threw it out like a few weeks ago.
I'm not too honest. I know we've printed off a few bits and pieces here today, but realistically, I can't remember the last time I've used a printer myself. So everything's online these days. If your fund doesn't have an app, I'm sure they'll have an online portal, like your online banking type thing. So you can keep track of it there. And it's just a matter of when you move from one employer to another, keep a hold of those details. There's some certain details you'll need to share with them and include in the form. Saying that, if you don't actually know what super fund you were with before by some chance, maybe when you onboarded with them, you used an email address you don't have access to anymore. So any statements or any information about that fund has gone to an inbox you have no access to. In this day and age, employers actually have to do what's called a stapled search they actually have to go out and try and find any existing super funds that you already have out in the super multiverse. I'm using the multiverse language at the moment because I'm a bit of a Marvel nerd. But that, there's tools that the employer can use to locate any existing super funds that you have out there.
I just have this image of like someone stapling your super fund to your shirt. You're just like taking it around.
Well, that's it. Yeah, these were only introduced, these laws in 2020. So I think 2020. So I'm pretty sure it's 2020.
Someone fact check the man.
The right stat just here.
Yeah.
It was actually 2021.
It was a good change because, working in super for, I think 12 or 13 years now, I have seen so many people accumulate so many different super funds. Because of that, I think just that mindset of you join an employer, you just sign up to their default fund, and then before you know it, you got 4 or 5.
Guilty.
Is that one? Yeah,
yes.
That's you. But, look, and we can talk about this in a bit more detail later, but it's so easy to consolidate them these days. There's so many digital tools available to you as well to be able to sort of help you through that process.
Yeah,
I want to know why Alex is guilty.
Just for this or for other crimes? Yeah, what are we confessing to today?
We'll keep it super for now.
Just for super. So like my first job was a waitress. I was maybe about 16, 17. I wasn't very good, but I gave it a crack. And one of the first things they did was that same process of nominating a super fund. And being 16 and not really caring, I just went with the default fund and then completely forgot about it. Few years pass, I eventually get, a big girl job, and then I go, okay, super, that thing, default fund, and then carried on. And it wasn't until, I was a lot older that I realized that I had multiple funds open. So Matt, if you are like me and you find out that you have multiple super funds, how can you find your lost super?
Yeah, this day and age, it's easier than ever in a sense that you can actually just do this via your MyGov. So where you log in and do your tax every year, or if you've got somebody that helps you do that every year, there's actually a little superannuation portal in there which you can actually locate any lost or other super funds out in that super multiverse that we're talking about. So really easy to locate them, and you can consolidate them within there if you want to. The other way you can do it as well is actually just engaging with your own super fund. So most super funds will have some sort of online portal, or even via an app you might be able to consolidate via there as well. So it's technology is our best friend when it comes to consolidation. All the tools are available at your disposal, and no paper-based stuff is required these days, which is even better.
If it was your own fund and you Fund A and you want to stay with Fund A and you have B and C over, you would go to Fund A's website and have them do the hard work of consolidating for you.
So if you've got your sort of, I suppose your core fund, you'd probably go with that fund and then get them to bring over the other two type things. So
easy peasy.
Super easy, right?
But consolidating isn't right for everyone, so it's best to seek financial advice, right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, this is really great to know. Honestly, I wish younger Ange knew a whole lot more about this. So thank you so much for joining us today, Matt. It was really great to have you on our first episode.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yes, thanks for being our very first guest.
Awesome.
And I'm sure we'll bring you back in for a few more episodes if you're open to it.
Sounds good. Anytime.
Fantastic. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to like, follow and subscribe.
For any more information on the things we spoke about today, there'll be some links in the description below.
And that is super simple. Before combining your super, consider which fund is right for you. Check out the fees and costs of your funds, plus any benefits that would be lost, such as insurance cover. Make sure your other funds know about any contributions you intend to claim a tax deduction for before combining your super. If you have any questions, speak to a licensed financial advisor or visit the ASIC Money Smart website for more information.